Hi, my name is Joseph Carrillo, and this is my poetry presentation. The poem that I chose is called One Art and was written by Elizabeth Bishop. Elizabeth Bishop was an American poet and a short story writer. She was born on February 8, 1911, and died on October 6, 1979. Elizabeth Bishop was also a consultant in poetry to the Library of Congress from 1949 to 1950. She was also the Pulitzer Prize winner for poetry in 1956, the National Book Award winner in 1970, and the recipient of the Stalin International Prize for Literature in 1976. Dwight Garner argued that she was perhaps the most purely gifted poet in the 20th century. Elizabeth Bishop was an only child, was born in Warren Center, Massachusetts, United States to William Thomas and Gretchen May Balmer Bishop. After her father, a successful builder, died when she was 8 months old, Bishop's mother became mentally ill and was institutionalized in 1916. Bishop would later write about the time of her mother's struggles in her short story In the Village. Effectively orphaned during her very early childhood, she lived with her maternal grandparents on a farm in the great village Nova Scotia, a period where she also referred to her writing. Bishop's mother remained in the asylum until her death in 1934, and the two were never reunited. Later in her childhood, Bishop's paternal family gained custody. She was removed from the care of her grandparents and moved in with her father's wealthier family in Warren Center, Massachusetts. However, Bishop was unhappy there, as her separation from her material grandparents made her lonely. While she was living in Warren Center, she developed chronic asthenia, from which she suffered for the rest of her life. Her time in Warren Center is briefly chronicled in her poem In the Waiting Room. In 1918, her grandparents realized that Bishop was unhappy living with them, sent her to live with her mother's older sister, Maud Balmer Shepherdson, and her husband, George. The Bishops paid Maud to house and educate their granddaughter. The Shepherdson lived in the tenement in the impoverished River, Massachusetts neighborhood popular to mostly by Irish and Italian immigrants. The family later moved to the better circumstances in Cliffordale, Massachusetts. It was Bishop's aunt who introduced her to the work of Victorian poets, including Alfred Lord Tennyson, Thomas Clare, Robert Browning, and Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Bishop was very ill as a child and was resulted receiving very little formal schooling until she attended Sages High School for her freshman year. She was accepted to Walnut High School in Natick, Massachusetts for her sophomore year, but was behind on her vaccinations and was not allowed to attend. Instead, she spent the years of her North Shore Country Day School in Beverly, Massachusetts. Bishop then boarded at the Walnut High School where she studied music. At the school, her first poem was published by her friend Fran Bolhan in a student magazine. Then she entered Vassar College in Portuguese, New York in the fall of 1929, shortly before the stock market crash, planning to be a compositor. She gave up music because of the terror of performance and switching to English, where she took courses including 16th and 17th century literature and the novel. Bishop published her work in her senior year in the magazine based in California. In 1933, she co-founded Calm Spirit and a rebel literacy magazine at Vassar with writer Mary McCarthy. 1 year her senior, Margaret Miller, and the sisters Eunice and Eleanor Clark. Bishop graduated from Vassar with a bachelor's degree in 1934. That was a little biography of Elizabeth Bishop. My meme that I've chose. No, don't tell me. Okay, there we go. The meme that I chose which implies from the poem that it is not hard to master the art of losing. So what it says is, Elizabeth, it's not hard to master to lose something. Yes, it is, and it can lead to disaster. What kind of disaster? Them yelling, and the kind of disaster you can't find it for weeks with them yelling as well. And he implies, you're wrong. I will find it less than a week. My poem. Here is my poem, and the main theme about my poem is that it is implied that it is not hard to misplace an item that you may have. And the main point is that in every situation, it may be difficult for you to lose an item that you have, and it is not hard for you to master losing an item. And how my poem states, the art of losing isn't hard to master, which it says, is it something master, or is it a reason, or is it a person? The art of mastering can be like in any different types of situations where it implies it could be the master of fighting, it could be the master of doing magic tricks, it could be the master of driving cars, it could be any type of mastery. And so how it continues, so many things seem filled with intent to be lost, that their loss is no disaster. Lost, it could be any type of object, it could be a phone, it could be a watch, it could be a tablet, it could be your car keys or your house keys, or it could even be a person. And what applies in disaster, it means that it can lead someone to go a little crazy, because sometimes that object that you lost can be very important to you. And where it goes in the second line, lose something every day except the fluster of lost store keys, the house badly spent. Where it says lost, what does it mean? It could imply that every day in your everyday life, you could always lose something that you do not notice. You could lose it outside, you lose it in your home, you could lose it in your work, anywhere you go. And what she implies to accept the fluster, it means to accept the frustration that comes when losing something. Because it does eventually happen a lot where someone could struggle trying to find something, and it's very irritating. An example could be losing an earring or trying to find it in a couch. It could be very hard because it's very small and it's very difficult to find and it's very difficult to see. How it also applies, the art of losing isn't hard to master. And it is true, because in everyday life, it's something that happens every day, and it's not hard to master losing something. Then practicing losing farther, losing faster, places and names, and where it was you meant to travel. None of these will bring disaster. Where I circled where it says practice, is it something important? Is it something that you need to practice? Losing faster, does it mean that, is it something where you have to lose something fast, or is it something that you have to find something fast? Places, it could be like how I said, it could be in many places. It could be in a closet, it could be in a couch, or it could be in your bed. This can be correspond to many places, not just to one. It could be in many more. And it brings disaster. I lost my mother's watch, and look, my last or next to last or 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Again, she's always repeating, the art of losing isn't hard to master. And that could be a conflict between losing and trying to find your item. So one could be The art of losing versus the art the art trying to find your watch. I lost two cities, lovely ones, and vaster some realms I own, two rivers, a continent I missed them, but it wasn't a disaster. And right here I circled cities because she implies what kind. I asked what kind of cities. Were they big? Were they small? Were they small cities? Were they cities that were in suburban places? Were they cities that had a huge population? And she implies that it wasn't a disaster that she lost a city. And I believe that that is something that could lead to disaster because it is home of many people. In the last one, it says, even losing the joking voice, a gesture I love, I shall have lied. It's an event. The art of losing is not hard to master, though it may look, write it, like disaster. Joking voice, a gesture. A gesture is to make a smile or to make a subtle movement. Like if someone's coming up to you, you could make a small gesture like giving a little smile or giving a little greeting. A joke could be like coming up on like, oh, what is the chicken crossed the road and what did he find the other side? Um, Again, where she always implies master. It is not hard to master or the type of art, and is the situation that is losing something that is yours. Uh, Disaster. This can lead to trouble if you lose an item that does not belong to you. Like I said, she lost her mother's watch, and it's something that she cannot return to her because she lost. And I believe it's something important that you should always try to find something that is not yours because that could lead to trouble for you and the person that you lost it from. And that completes my presentation.